commencer par souhaiter tous les papas Happy Father's Day. Aujourd'hui, you are the best fathers. Et je voudrais juste commencer un tout petit peu avec notre introduction. Notre chairman pourrait nous quitter d'un moment à l'autre. C'est pourquoi je suis là pour présenter un peu notre introduction. Mais aujourd'hui, nous allons recevoir Monsieur Aimé Boukassa, Aimé Dollar pour les intimes. Il va nous parler sur le cyber security dans nos maisons. Il y a 2 semaines, dans l'entreprise là où je travaille, en arrivant au bureau le matin, on nous a tous obligés de changer le password. Apparemment, il y avait quelqu'un qui avait ouvert un email qu'il ne fallait pas ouvrir et il y avait des virus dans l'entreprise. Ça peut nous arriver là, au moins c'était dans l'entreprise, ils ont toutes les ressources pour résoudre le problème. Mais lorsque ça nous arrive à la maison, qu'est-ce que nous pouvons faire? Nous avons dans nos laptops beaucoup des informations, nos comptes bancaires et tout ça peut être affecté. As I was saying in French, 2 weeks ago, we had an incident in the company where I work where they obliged all of us to change passwords because one of the colleagues opened an email that he was not supposed to open. Apparently, this issue affected many companies as well all over the world. So in case this happens to us at home, in this case, the company has resources to fix, to remedy to this problem. What about if it happens to our homes? What are we going to do? That's why we have Papa Aimé Boukassa is going to speak to us about how we can protect ourselves, protect the information about our banking and all other important informations that we have in our computers. Now coming to our CoopCongo, my laptop is flat. I'm just connecting the battery quickly. With regard to CoopCongo, we were on the forming, storming. Now we are on the norming. We have surpassed 200 members and the 100,000 that the Reserve Bank requires to to start our operations. Donc, nous avons déjà dépassé notre formation et le storming et nous sommes maintenant dans les normes. Et la Reserve Bank nous avait déjà accepté notre dossier, les documents qu'on avait introduits. Donc, nous sommes maintenant dans le processus de demande de la licence. Et après ça, nous allons passer à la dernière phase qui est la performance. Notre vision, c'est avoir une plateforme des Congolais pour les Congolais à partir d'Afrique du Sud, ici et dans le monde. So our vision is to have the banking platform for Congolese in Southern Africa and the world. This is the future bank for us, the Congolese. It belongs to you, it belongs to me. So as a short goal, we are now waiting for the document, the Reserve Bank for our license so we can start our operations. We have surpassed the 200 members as I introduced, and we have more than 100,000 in our account. So we reserved 2 million shares. Those are the shares that were issued. And up to now, we have 1,089,720 shares that people have reserved. Donc, nous avons réservé 2 millions de shares, des actions, et jusqu'à présent, les gens, il y a 1,089 720 actions que les gens ont déjà réservées. Donc, nous avons encore presque 1 million que nous devons continuer à vendre. Et dans notre futur très proche, nous allons donner des produits comme les savings, les épargnes, nous allons donner des crédits et puis des produits pour la communauté, comme le medical assistance, le funeral assistance. Et le funeral assistance, c'est un produit qui est déjà prêt pour commencer les opérations. Nous attendons juste le lancement. On attend, contactez-nous, les gens qui sont intéressés, comme ça, nous pouvons faire plus de campagnes pour que nous puissions commencer avec ce produit des funérailles. So the products that we will be issuing to our members, they are like the saving products, the credit products, and community products, like medical assistance and funeral assistance. The funeral assistance is ready. Contact us so that we do more advertising to the community at large. This is not the product for members only. This is for the whole community. We want to serve the community with the funeral assistance. So, l'éducation, c'est ça, par exemple, nous continuons toujours, après chaque 2 semaines, à éduquer notre population, notre communauté congolaise. Il y a le message qui a été lancé récemment pour l'accès au Quara. Si vous avez toujours des problèmes, n'hésitez pas à envoyer le email à Quara. Comme ça, ils vont résoudre votre problème le plus tôt possible. If you still have a problem with Quara connectivities, just please send the mail to Quara, contact us, we will facilitate to send a mail to Quara so that you may be connected. So that was a short introduction. So now I'm gonna hand over to Papa Aimé Bukasa. Is the architect, security and information telecoms. He's gonna speak to us about the cyber securities, how we can protect our homes. Merci beaucoup. Papa Aimé, à vous la parole.
Ok, merci beaucoup, Papa Edouard. Just going to share my screen. Okay, now is presentation. Okay. Can you see my screen?
Yes, yeah, we can see.
Okay. So thank you very much for giving me the opportunity to speak to you about cybersecurity. I will be switching from French to English, if it's okay, and from English to French.
It's
okay.
really perfect. We use both languages.
Both languages. Okay. So I will explain what is cyber security, and in reverse, I will also explain what is cyber attacks, what type of cyber attacks are out there that are, that are posing a constant threat to your information. And I will also explain what I mean by 80% and how to protect yourself and your family. And also, once you are infected by either a virus or a Trojan, what are the steps to follow in order to clean up your system and to prevent further attacks or further infection as far as viruses are concerned. So, when we do, when there are attacks, what people are after is your information. So we ever say that information is everything, because if people get to your data, they can ruin your reputation. And often all we have is our reputation, because if your reputation is ruined, you might not be able to do business with anyone because there will be some trust issue. In a case of a bank, for instance, what normally happens is once a bank loses reputation, people will tend to go and withdraw the money, and with all sort of consequences. Your data or information can be of financial nature, like Papa Edouard has just mentioned. People can gain what we call privileged access to your information, and basically just steal your maybe your password to your internet banking, or maybe if you have the habit to write your information on a file, they can access that file and get your pins, or just some information that will get them closer to, stealing your information and stealing your money. In the case of the industry in general, you can lose your competitive advantage, meaning that perhaps your blueprints that you use to produce some product or some product or some services, and also security in general, and also lose your privacy. You can have some compromising pictures or videos in your machine that were supposed to be private, and maybe you're a politician, maybe you are, a rich guy like Elon Musk or Bill Gates. Then they can, do a ransom. They say, okay, we have your pictures. Perhaps we can publish them if you don't give us X amount. So the type of attacks that we have there, I'll go a little bit more into details. We have what we call social engineering. We have what we call dumpster paradise, and many other forms of attack. But in this case, because most of families are online, so it's mainly these two type of attacks that we normally come across. There's a third one. Let me just write it down, which is the bogus sites. someone can just send you maybe a mail with a bogus site. Let's say, for instance, standardbank.co.za, but they just duplicate the T or the rest, standardbank.co.za, and then they give you a form and maybe asking you to update your details, and they will put the colors and everything, same as Standard Bank, and many people can click on the button, and by clicking, you may either fill your information or you may download some software that will be damaging to your system. So in general, I'm not going to spend too much time on this picture because this is a strategy that will normally be for big organization with a lot of resources, like Papa Edouard has just mentioned. They will normally go through all of this and have teams and teams of people working on different moving parts. But at the end of the day, as you see, I will start from the bottom. That's why I'm talking in terms of defense in depth. It means that once your perimeters has been breached, so you need to have other layers of protection that will support each other in such a way that, if the first layer is breached, you still have the second layer of defense and the third layer and the fourth layer up until they get to your data. So we make it more and more difficult for people to access your data. But I will explain later on where is the weakness in all of this and how to, to deal with it. So at the bottom, we have the data, which is basically, sensitive information, which can also include intellectual property. Then we have the devices that we use to access the data. On one side, you have your servers that are lying on your premises. And on the other side, you have your other devices, such as your phones, especially, in this era. The access mode is mainly, your phone on the internet, your PC on the internet. Then we have the network, where we put all sort of defenses there. I've mentioned one of them being the perimeter, the firewalls, and there are teams and teams that are working on it, on the network protection. Then we have one layer, which is the risk assessment. We need to continuously look over the threats that are out there and identify them and manage them in such a way that they don't harm our organization or our homes. Then we have the best practice. This is where I will talk a bit more. The best practices are basically, industry practices that are out there. What are other people doing to protect themselves? What are the standards that are out there? What are the other people doing? What is the common knowledge of wisdom that is out there? Then we have the communities. When you deal with all of this on your own, you are just a prey. You are an easy target. But when you deal with it in a community of organizations that are sharing information and about the threat and how they can, squall the threat, then everybody is protected as a community. So on the right-hand side, you'll see that we have the operations. So that are 24/7 by 365 days, monitoring all this environment, the threat intelligence, the detection, and the response that we need to give to the threat. So, yeah, it takes a lot of money to protect these organizations, but what we do is at the beginning of each project, it is fundamental that we begin with security in mind. It means that when you are still building the requirements, you need to build security as a requirement as part of the project. Other than that, it's a really a no-no. So moving on, this is just another representation of the defense in depth. We basically have the data that we want to protect, sensitive data. Then we have the endpoint, which are basically the access points to the data, which are our servers and our phones. Then we have the network, the applications, the identity services. Identity services that were mainly, your access control, role-based access control sits, meaning that it's first your password, your user ID, the policies around the password itself, policies such as you don't need to share that information. It is company property, and if you share that information and the organization is compromised, there are some penalties or some, how do we call it, some punishments based on the policy, the way it was defined. And on the outer layer, you have your policies, as I just mentioned, where you define conditions under which these resources, meaning applications, network, endpoint, can be accessed by authorized users. So it's a question of privileges. Who has access to what piece of data? And, in the process, you need to put segregation of duties in such a way that people don't access the entire information, they just access a portion of it. Or, on a need-to-know basis, meaning that if that information is not necessary for you to do your job, then you shouldn't have access to it. Now, family scope, and this is going to be mainly advices that I can give to the group on how to protect your family. So it's just the same model, but a little bit reduced. And most of this, you don't need to do it yourself, okay? You just need to rely on the different vendors that, have supplied the software that you are currently using. But in general, what happens is you have your operating system. And in most cases, what we do, we use Windows as operating systems. I don't think that in our houses, perhaps if we talk about maybe your Android or your iOS environment, but most of these operating systems come with a mechanism that helps you manage the patches. Why am I talking about the patches? The patches are simply remediation to vulnerabilities that we find within an operating system. And there are many out there, especially on Windows, whereby technical people or the attackers or the, how can I put it, the hackers can exploit your operating system holes to gain what we call elevated privilege, meaning privilege to the resources within your machine. So what the vendors such as Microsoft and your Apple of this world do is from time to time, they send you updates. I'm sure you've seen that already, where you'll just see a pop-up coming and say, okay, there are some updates, please install them. Don't restart your machine up until it's done. Have you seen something like that? Hello?
Yes, yeah, we've seen it.
Just trying to go. I've opened so many things. If we go, for instance, can you see what I'm doing? Can you see the screen, the new screen that I've opened? Or are you still on the presentation?
What we have is behavioral network, VPN, antivirus.
Oh, so you still have the. Okay, let me try and reshare because I want you to see my desk.
We can see the screen.
You can see the screen?
Indeed, we can see the behavioral network, VPN, antivirus. Is it that?
Yes, I wanted to show you something on my machine, but I'm trying to see how to show the entire desk so that when I move across screens, then you can...
You don't have that. I think there should be an option where you can share new.
Let's see, can you see?
Nice. Okay, yeah, now we see your
my desk. Huh? So can you see when I open this new one?
We see this.
Have you seen that pop up?
So it's
when I click on check updates, can you see, has it changed?
No. Actually, we see the drives.
That's very strange.
Or maybe why don't you stop sharing, then share again the specific.
Okay.
Maybe.
Okay.
It will work. Yeah.
Let me just stop. Because I just wanted to show as I'm speaking.
Okay.
Sorry about that.
No problem.
For some reason. Okay, let me just go back to the Can you see my settings?
Yeah, Windows updates.
Yes, it was just to show that the machine that I'm using is Windows 11. And as you can see, it is telling me that I'm up to date. So basically what Windows does is that they will send you a message somewhere down here that will just tell you to update your operating system. So what that means is that, all the variabilities that are on the Windows operating systems, the Microsoft people, they do they correct the bugs, they do the patching, and then they send it down to you as an update. So what I'm saying here is that you need, as a family on your machines, to make sure that you are always on the latest update of the patch, because even big organization, they have policies in place, and they have systems that do patch management in such a way that all the servers and all the touch points are always up to date. When it comes to patch management and vulnerabilities, because and that's another advice that I would like to give. You shouldn't be put in a position where you are, running after the fact. It means that your environment has already been affected, and you are now running in, fire killing mode. Okay, So you should always preempt the attack by first always having your operating system up to date. So that number one. Number two, okay, I've lost my sharing. Number two, what you need to do is your antivirus also need to be up to date. In my case, what I'm using McAfee. I'm using McAfee. Sorry, the phone is distracting me a bit here. And I want to show you something. Can you see my screen?
Yes. Yeah, you see the VPN is connecting. Yes.
Yes. So just now, Papa Mark was asking me that sometimes you don't see me on the network when I log in. It's because I use a VPN, and the VPN capability is given to me by my antivirus software. I'm using McAfee, and I make sure that my subscription is always up to date, so that, you know, every time there's a new virus that is coming out there, or a new threat or a new vulnerability, I don't need to worry about those kind of things, because there are 1,000 out there for us to be able to be following all the attacks one by one and having to manage all of that. So you don't need to do that. You just need to be up to date with your antivirus. As you can see, if I go back into my settings, if you look at my, I just did a scan here. Let me just quickly check. Just quickly check with if I say run a scan schedule. If I say run a scan, I can run a scan, and it's going to tell me exactly how many files have been infected, or if there is an infection. But in this case, I'll just let it run up to the end of the presentation, and then we look at it again to see that, you know, I can scan my machine and not have problems. But the way it is on this machine is that it is automated. It means that I've set it up to, from time to time, run and tell me if there are some threats. And the antivirus itself has a way to deal with those threats. So I don't need to worry about those. Is there any questions so far? And also, the reason why I showed you the VPN, it's simply to tell you that this is actually a third mechanism that you have to protect yourself. Because what we do is, for those who travel, for instance, you can easily connect to an airport or to an hotel. I can already tell you that those networks are not secure for your machine. People, you know, running those networks can see your machine, but what you can do is use your antivirus to basically protect your machine, meaning that your machine will be invisible to anyone trying to talk to you or trying to attack you. And also, all your information or all your traffic from your machine is encrypted from your machine to the VPN server that will then deal with it at the other end. So 3 things: make sure that your operating system is always up to date. Number 2, make sure that you have an antivirus that is connected to the provider, so that the provider can update your environment regularly. And number 3, make sure that when you travel, or you can even set it up all the time where your VPN is just a click, you disable it, and you'll see my machine will complain and will tell me that my VPN has been disconnected, and I can just connect it back. So there's no, the only change you can do, because if you look for my machine, you'll think that I'm actually in the United States right now, but I'm currently sitting in the Democratic Republic of Congo. So with these 3 things in place, I can assure you that you can rest. You can easily rest and ensure that your information is protected. But at the beginning, can you see my presentation? I'm back at the presentation. Or you're still seeing the
we're still seeing your VPN.
A VPN set. Okay, I'm just gonna stop, and I can't see that generic. Wait, I can just switch from screen to screen, and okay, I'll just do it that way, the hard way. Can you see now?
Yes, yeah, see the presentation.
Okay, yeah. So we've talking about the patches, we've talking about the antiviruses, we've talking about your network. The antivirus here brings a VPN, brings a firewall. Usually the defaults that they bring, the default settings are enough for you to be protected. As you can see, those layers are supportive of each other. The operating system support the antivirus support the operating system. Antivirus, support the network layer support the antivirus. And the last layer that I'm going to talk about is basically behavioral. So at the beginning, you saw I mentioned the 80%. The 80%, which simply means that you are 80% responsible for the cyber attacks that happens to you. Why am I saying so? That is as true for your families, for your homes, than it is for the big organizations. Papa Edouard just mentioned earlier on, saying that one of the employees did click on a link, and I think a Trojan or a virus was downloaded that affected the whole organization. So that way, training such as this one, awareness becomes very important, whereby employees or family members need to be aware that they shouldn't just be sharing information anyhow, especially nowadays where we have your social medias, the kids are out there, they are, publishing their activities, the food they eat, what their parents are doing. And all of that is a lot of information that someone can really just look at and pick and mount an attack against your family. So there are things like, answering phone calls from strangers. That's what we call social engineering, where someone will just call your family. And I've been prey to that as well myself, even after so many years in the information security industry. I received a call. Those people were speaking a very good English. They called me from my telecom number, my fixed number. We are from a company. We've been commissioned by Telcom to check because there's been an outbreak of viruses out there. We just want to, come onto your machine and see, how we can help you and protect yourself. And they were able to install remote access management tools, which gave them access to my machine. But fortunately for me, when now they started, asking me questions to allow them to have access, for instance, to my certificate and all those information. Then I just realized that, you know, I've been stupid and I've been caught. I just disconnected my networking, and I had to run, you know, my antiviruses and, you know, to clean basically the system that will remove all this unwanted piece of software. So it can happen to anyone. Unfortunately, you know, you just need to be aware that you shouldn't be answering to any call. You shouldn't just be clicking on any email link that is sent to you. You have to examine it first. And if you don't understand it, you can just, you know, pick a phone and call someone. Just need to be aware of what is going on, of your surroundings, because those people are out there to get your information and your family. One thing I wanted to mention as well is on the antivirus itself, there are settings for family. Can I quickly just stop sharing and show you? Is that okay?
Okay.
All right, so there are just, and by the way, Windows does come with, especially Windows 365, which is online, does come with a lot of those settings as well. But I'm not going to go into those just for the sake of time. Let's see. So if you go back here on the software side, you'll see, yeah, you know, McAfee Safe Family Setup. And if you open it, just want to try and refresh. Okay, we cannot load this right now. Come on. I had it open before. Okay, let me rather open the Microsoft one. Can you see my screen?
Not yet.
Okay.
It's not sharing yet.
So yeah, this one that I'm showing, just some of the settings that you can obtain from McAfee, but you can also obtain them from just the inbuilt Microsoft, the one that comes with the operating system. So you have parental controls, you have, you know, help protected kids online, choose which website your kids can visit as they explore the web, you know, using Microsoft Edge. Set good screen times, you know, choose when and how much time your kids can use their devices, keep track on your kids' digital, you know, life, get weekly activity reports on your kids' activities, let your kids buy appropriate apps and games and all of that. So there's a lot of settings that come with this antivirus and the protection that you can also use to, fine-tune protection of your family when it comes to protecting the data. Yeah. So we do have other forms of attacks as well. That is really, I think there's some background noise up there. That also come, with what you throw away. And that one, we call it the dumpster paradise, meaning that people can go to your dustbin, for instance, outside your house. They can go and check what you throw away. There are some piece of paper where you've written some information. There are maybe, some cigarette butts that you've thrown in there. Then people know that you are a smoker or a beer drinker. So they can really check your behavior and tailor an attack against, yourself or your family. That same form of attack has been mounted against, the U.S. Department of Defense, whereby, just based on, some papers that were thrown away in the dustbin, the attackers were able to, to mount a successful attack and gain access to, the Department of Defense servers. There's a lot of, you have, for instance, shoulder surfing, where, while you're sitting on your machine, on your phone, someone comes and stand behind you and observe what you are doing. People can also pick up information from there. Some other form of, attack can be based on your clean desk policy, for instance. If you let piece of papers lying around and sometimes, you can be on the phone and someone is dictating some information to you and you just write it down and, people can use it to mount an attack. At Standard Bank, for instance, where I've been, every Friday we had a big machine, a big shredder that would come on a track and collect all the piece of papers that were lying around on printers, on the tables, and just shred it. Yeah, because, when it comes to security, not single formula can assist you to protect your organization or your family. You have to apply a set of, rules that will work together to give you the final protection that you need. So again, just to summarize, for your family, just make sure that, those patches are installed. Make sure that your antivirus is a commercial one and your subscription is on, your subscription is up to date. It might cost a bit of money, but not that much when it comes to the importance of protecting your data and your family. Then you have the firewall that comes in built and the VPN as well that can hide your machine when you are in hostile environment. So my advice here is for you to preempt those attacks by simply being careful with your environment and being careful with the information that you or your family members are giving out there to people. Okay, so is there any question?
There's a question on the chat. Maybe you can
okay.
read. Yeah.
Let me just
How
quickly.
we're vulnerable from smart TVs.
Also available our smart TVs with. Yes, I mean, a smart TV is just a device like any other. If you look very closely, for instance, those TVs that are coming from the likes of Samsung and others, it is just a normal operating system. And I think mostly Android running inside the television. So it is just a computer like any other. You just need to make sure that, you know, the updates that the vendor sends are installed, and you should really be fine against all forms of attacks. Is that what you wanted to know? Is that Mark? Hello? Can you hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you.
Okay. So, like I said, all the endpoints today really are running on the same operating systems as any other. Mostly on phones, you have your Android, you have your iOS. All these smart devices are running the same set of tools in such a way that in the case of phones, for instance, and those smart televisions, it's just the vendor themselves taking care of updating your environment so that you know, your data is not compromised. You know, like today in some of the projects that I'm working on, we are going as far as using what you call facial recognition for you to log on securely onto those devices. For instance, my platform, I don't know if you've seen it before, Jakumaja, which we are hoping to be a competition to YouTube. We have built facial recognition and a standard that we call FIDO. FIDO, which is basically fast online identity, which basically uses all sort of biometrics to allow you to access, you know, the services. What I'm saying there is that as far as the password, user ID and password is concerned, as a first layer of protection, we are moving away from that. We are now talking about passwordless environment, because in general, passwords are things that are very difficult to manage, even for big organizations. Imagine you have an organization of 300,000 people, such as IBM, whereby people will go and forget the passwords, and you know, you have to call a help desk or, you know, to reset your password, and it becomes a very, very costly exercise. So what we are doing now, we are really, really moving away from password, or we keep the password as a minimum or the lowest level of security, and then we automatically upgrade you to, you know, the highest level of security, meaning facial recognition, fingerprinting, voice recognition, and all of that. And the phone is very crucial into that ecosystem, because it gives you what you call a second factor authentication, meaning that you use the phone as something you have, and if you can access your phone, you can also access the system. On the laptop, what will happen is you'll request access and you'll get a code on your phone or on a piece of software that we normally call authenticators. And then the authenticator will give you a code and you will enter it on your PC to access, you know, the information. Because the password is often what we call the weakest link. You know, even in a reputable organization, there's a bank I've worked with where, you know, the operators will just pass each other, you know, the password. Oh, what is the password for this system? And then they will, oh, the password is 1, 2, 3, and then they will just read it loud, simply because, you know, the training was not properly done. You know, they've been passing around that privileged information and compromising the system. There's a lady that I personally know that for the same organization that spent about 7 years in prison for something she did not do, simply because she trusted someone with a password. And, you know, that colleague of hers was able to mount, you know, to do authorize a transaction of a couple of millions, and she was arrested for it because the argument there was that when we look into the systems, into the audit logs, it's your credentials that are going into the system and you know, authorizing that multi-million rand transaction. So it's it can be simple if you keep it simple and if you pay attention, but it can get very complicated if you don't pay attention and you don't do the proper training, and you, like we're doing now, it's very, very crucial to make you aware of what is, you know, going on out there. Another example is a court case we had, you know, when we introduced the chip on a credit card for Standard Bank. A lady from the UK lost some money from the ATM. And what we've been saying to our client was that once you put the chip and you have your PIN, there's no way that someone can do a transaction on your behalf unless you give them the card and you give them the PIN. And the lady was adamant that, you know, her PIN was compromised from the bank. So they called in the University of Oxford with some very famous professors and their assistants. You know, they came to demonstrate that, you know, the IBM coprocessor, the cryptographic coprocessor could be compromised. And that morning I was walking to work at Standard Bank, and I've been called in the office. Everybody was panicking. You know, the IBM 4758 cryptographic coprocessor has been compromised. And the name of attack was the decimalization table attack. So, you know, someone who can just go into the system, into the, you know, the crypto and guess your password based on a table that the crypto uses. So I had to look into it. I had to recreate the attack by writing a program that will attack the crypto and, you know, reveal the PIN. And we were able to do that. But what the professors of the universities forgot that when we build security system, we build the layers as I've shown you in the picture. It's an onion ring, as we call it sometimes. First, you have to bridge the physical security, the doors, the biometrics. Then you have to come into the organization, and you have to have the correct privileges. You know, you have to be authorized to do certain activities. Then you have to go into the computer room. Then you have to go into the crypto room. Then you have to access the racks. You have to access the server where the crypto is. And if you get to the crypto, then you have to catch, you know, the traffic that is coming from the ATM for you to extract the PIN. So if you haven't done all of that, it means that it's just an academic exercise. So it's a sum of everything we do that protect us against the attackers. Is there any question?
I see no question on the chat. I would like just to apologize to our audience. We usually go up to 6 o'clock. If you allow, we can still proceed for a couple of more minutes. Je voudrais m'excuser un peu sur votre présence. D'habitude, nous allons jusqu'à 18 heures, mais si vous nous autorisez à ajuster quelques minutes, encore une dizaine de minutes pour terminer notre sujet. Merci beaucoup.
Okay, Papa Edouard, if there are no other questions, then I think I'm done from my side, unless you want to see how Jacumaja works. I don't think so, but yeah.
If our audience would like, maybe what I would like, maybe you can take it a bit more technical. Maybe you can just speak even for 5 minutes in French, just to,
okay.
A little bit in French, yes.
OK. Juste en résumé, c'est que nous sommes les premiers responsables de la protection de nos informations. Donc, personne ne peut accéder à nos informations si nous ne leur avons pas donné la permission ou si nous ne leur avons pas donné le privilège. Alors, l'information, c'est ce qu'il y a au milieu de tout, parce que si on vole vos informations, ça peut avoir comme résultante que votre réputation est endommagée et que peut-être à l'avenir, vous n'êtes plus en mesure de travailler avec qui que ce soit. Ou alors, ça peut être vos informations confidentielles en termes de finances. Appelons comme ça, les voleurs peuvent prendre cette information et monter une attaque contre votre compte et retirer de l'argent. Ou alors, tout simplement, ils peuvent vous faire du chantage s'il y a des photos qui sont privées, qui sont compromettantes ou privées. Ils peuvent vous faire chanter, vous dire que voilà, on a vos informations et ou alors vous avez un projet avec comment est-ce que je peux mettre ça avec les informations qui font de vous que vous soyez beaucoup plus compétitif. S'ils volent cette information-là, c'est-à-dire qu'ils peuvent vous dévancer sur le marché et avec vos idées. Donc, c'est vraiment vos données qui fait toute la sensibilité de ce que nous sommes en train de parler aujourd'hui. Alors, comme vous êtes une famille et que vous n'avez pas les ressources que les grandes compagnies ont, par exemple, Standard Bank, quand vous y allez, IT Security, c'est au moins 3 étages de personnes qui travaillent. Il y a des gens qui travaillent à la cryptographie, il y a des gens qui travaillent avec, comment on appelle ça, les antivirus, il y a une équipe pour les firewalls, il y a une équipe pour, comment on appelle ça, network protection, il y a une équipe qui travaille pour ce qu'on appelle le key management. Donc, il y a beaucoup de gens qui travaillent. Et puis, vous avez les développeurs qui font le développement des systèmes de sécurité et tout ça. Donc, c'est beaucoup d'argent qui vont dans ces opérations-là. Alors, à la maison, comment vous faites? Il faut faire ce qu'on appelle, il faut être prudent. OK? Premièrement, prudent avec votre système d'exploitation. Quand le vendeur comme Microsoft ou bien comme Apple vous envoie un update, souvent ça vous dit que voilà, there is an update, il y a un nouveau update. Vous voulez le faire maintenant ou vous voulez le faire plus tard? Souvent, beaucoup ceux qui font, bon, parce qu'ils sont au milieu de quelque chose d'intéressant, bien de très pressant, ce qu'ils font, c'est que, bon, non, je vais le faire un peu plus tard. OK. Dans ces updates-là, on vous envoie les corrections, OK, sur les vulnérabilités que vous avez sur le système d'exploitation. Donc, il faut vraiment prendre ça au sérieux. Quand il y a des updates, il faut les installer. OK? Deuxièmement, vous devez avoir un antivirus. Dans mon cas, je vous ai montré, j'ai McAfee et votre abonnement doit être, vous devez payer votre abonnement. Bon, le mien, souvent, je paye un abonnement de 2 ans, à la fois 2-3 ans, si je ne me rappelle pas souvent, parce que et vous leur laissez la responsabilité de faire cet update-là automatique de votre antivirus. Mais ce qui est bien aussi, c'est que l'antivirus vient avec beaucoup d'autres capacités. Je vous ai montré, par exemple, le cas, vous avez un firewall. Un firewall, c'est comme un mur qui ne laisse passer que le trafic qui n'est pas malicieux. OK? Donc, ça vous protège contre les attaques qui sont connues là-bas. Et il y en a des milliers. Il y en a des milliers. Donc, comme je suis assis ici sur ma machine, c'est à chaque seconde que les gens essaient d'entrer. Et c'est de même pour vous aussi, parce qu'il y a des gens qui n'ont ça que comme travail, c'est-à-dire voler les informations des gens pour en tirer bénéfice. Il y a aussi une autre raison, c'est que si on veut vous nuire carrément, un employé, par exemple, un ancien employé qui veut vous nuire, il peut vous laisser ce qu'on appelle un time bomb dans l'organisation, qui peut peut-être se réveiller 3 mois après qu'il soit parti et qui commence à faire des dégâts. On commence par exemple à effacer les informations importantes. Alors, dans l'antivirus, vous avez aussi le VPN qui est très important. Donc, vous pouvez activer ce VPN-là. Je ne pense pas que ça coûte, je crois que ça vient avec le prix de l'antivirus. Donc, le VPN a aussi la capacité de cacher votre machine à travers le écosystème qui est là-bas dehors. Surtout quand vous voyagez beaucoup, dans les aéroports, les hôtels que nous fréquentons quand nous sommes en voyage, etc. Il y a une chose que j'ai oublié de dire aussi, c'est d'éviter d'aller dans les cafés Internet. Parce que là aussi, soit vous allez consulter votre Gmail, et souvent notre Gmail, il y a beaucoup d'informations là-dedans et on utilise ça parfois aussi comme, un système secondaire au cas où nous ne savons pas accéder à d'autres systèmes. Donc, comme le default, en fait. Et les USB que nous mettons un peu partout comme ça, là, dans d'autres machines, il faut aussi faire attention à ça parce que c'est aussi un grand vecteur de virus et de programmes malicieux qui peuvent vous affecter. Et en grande partie, c'est vous-même, votre comportement. Donc, faites attention à là où vous allez, dans les sites que vous consultez, les liens que vous cliquez. Si vous ne comprenez pas le lien en question, il ne faut pas le cliquer si ce n'est pas important. Ou vous pouvez appeler quelqu'un d'autre et lui demander ce qu'il faut faire. Dans les réseaux sociaux, par exemple, évitez de vous exposer, parce que certaines informations qui peuvent vous paraître pas très sensibles peuvent donner à d'autres personnes une indication de, par exemple, là où vous êtes et pratiquement vous quadriller et savoir dans quelle région ou dans quel secteur on peut cibler pour pouvoir vous trouver. Quand je dis vous trouver, c'est-à-dire votre machine et autres. Voilà. Donc, c'est un peu, grosso modo, ce que j'avais à dire. Je sais que c'est un sujet qui est à la fois complexe, un peu difficile à simplifier, mais j'espère que j'ai touché à l'essentiel.
Bien, merci beaucoup, en tout cas, merci. Juste une question. Est-ce qu'il y a des softwares que nous pouvons mettre, par exemple, dans des flash disks, que même si on les met dans d'autres machines, elles sont toujours protégées?
Oui, l'antivirus ici dont je parle, si vous connectez un USB sur votre machine, ça va vous demander, ça va directement vous donner un pop-up pour dire vous avez introduit un USB, est-ce que vous êtes sûr que vous voulez continuer, ou bien je peux faire le scanning. Il faut toujours faire le scan. Donc, ça va scanner le USB et ça va vous dire s'il y a des problèmes avec ce USB-là.
S'il y a des questions, si quelqu'un a une question, une suggestion, et nous posons toutes questions, même en relation avec CoopCongo aussi. Any question?
I have a question.
Yes, go ahead.
I need to find out, thank you very much for the brilliant presentation. I just need to find out if, laissez-moi parler en français, je crois que tout le monde parle français. Je voulais seulement savoir si il est prudent pour nous d'utiliser les iPhones à la place des Samsung et autres types de phones. Je me pose des questions, on nous dit souvent que les iPhones ne sont pas vulnérables au virus. Quels sont les conseils que vous pouvez nous donner? Donc, je sais que c'est aussi costaud de maintenir les iPhones très compliqués et tout, il faut payer, même si on paie à faute ou on ne sera pas à faute, ça dépend de quelle catégorie. Quels sont les conseils que vous pouvez nous donner avec les bons systèmes de téléphone, les bons téléphones qu'on peut utiliser? Voilà.
Daddy.
Sorry for la funky dérange.
Bon, il y a deux façons de le faire. Comme j'avais indiqué au départ, si par exemple vous êtes avec Samsung, vous allez voir que à tout moment, par exemple, moi j'utilise le Huawei, qui est aussi basé sur le Android, si je ne m'abuse. À tout moment, c'est eux qui doivent vous envoyer les updates. C'est-à-dire, dans ces updates-là, vous avez, comment dire, toutes les protections possibles. Et la même chose pour iPhone. Mais souvent, ce que les organisations font aussi, et là, c'est vraiment une autre étape. Ils utilisent ce qu'on appelle les endpoint protection. C'est-à-dire que c'est un software qui est en train de... qui est dans l'organisation, qui a un serveur dans l'organisation, ou bien un serveur avec le provider, comme CloudStrike, for instance. Et vous avez un agent aussi, disons un morceau de software qui est dans le téléphone. Et souvent, dans ce cas-là, c'est un téléphone que l'organisation vous a donné. C'est-à-dire qu'ils vont faire ce qu'on appelle un build, c'est-à-dire ils vont mettre un certain nombre d'applications, disons une liste, et au-delà de cette liste-là, vous ne pouvez plus rien d'autre, vous ne pouvez plus ajouter quoi que ce soit. Alors là, ils contrôlent vos emails, ils contrôlent tout ce que vous êtes en train de faire comme download, ils contrôlent les liens sur les sites que vous êtes en train de visiter, mais c'est contrôlé d'une manière centrale selon une certaine politique, selon et policy que l'organisation veut faire. Mais ça, c'est un peu difficile si c'est votre propre téléphone. Mais je sais qu'il y a la politique qu'on appelle le BY, bring your own, BYOD, bring your own device. Et dans ce device-là, on sera obligé de mettre un agent qui va contrôler tout ce que vous faites dans ce téléphone-là, juste pour protéger les informations de l'organisation. Mais d'une manière générale, pour les téléphones qu'on a tous les jours ici, on est vraiment à la merci du vendeur qui nous envoie les updates de façon à patcher les différentes vulnérabilités.
Merci beaucoup. Quelqu'un a une autre question? Nous ne sommes pas nombreux. Vous pouvez poser. Une autre question, peut-être? OK. Je voudrais vraiment vous remercier pour le temps que vous nous avez accordé, le temps extra. Et je voudrais aussi remercier Aimé pour avoir accepté notre invitation pour nous parler sur la sécurité à la maison. Bientôt, je crois, nous aurons lancé nos accounts de CoopCongo. Actuellement déjà, nous sommes déjà sur Quora. Et c'est dans cet ordre d'idées que nous avons pensé aussi que il faut protéger nos informations qui sont vraiment cruciales. Je voudrais vous remercier abondamment et encore souhaiter Happy Father's Day en cette journée. Au lieu de le passer avec vos familles, vous avez décidé de passer ce temps avec nous. Merci beaucoup. Et on se retrouve encore dans 2 semaines. Merci beaucoup. Bon dimanche.
Merci beaucoup pour l'opportunité et pour votre patience et attention. Merci.
Merci. Je vous en prie. Merci beaucoup.
Merci.
Merci.